Well, back on the Range Rover. Air suspension problems as usual. Compressor rebuild. I'm going to show you how to get these out. Pretty simple, it's not hard. If you have any issues with your compressor, always just double check on that, make sure that's not stuck open. That's your relief valve. Sometimes they fail and it pumps the air out of here, but I tested that and it's not that. The likelihood it's probably this. I've been on my Diagnostics tool. No fault codes. I'll go in here. .136 psi. Compressor temperature, reservoir valve, and all my bellows. All of them. Not one there. So that's the upper one. Show them, look. See, it's trying to go up, but it won't go up. And my bellows and my things, none of them are working. Put that back down. Try and put it back up. See, look, the bellows are opening, which ain't going up. Tank pressure's not dropping, and she just gives up. That should be higher, should be near 170 odd psi. So it isn't going to go. Pressure's not dropped once, so it's not sent it out. So we'll rebuild that compressor. You can test these if you get yourself if you've got yourself a compressor with a valve, a pressure gauge on there, you can take that out and you can put your pressure gauge on there. And if you look in here, there's a relay. That relay there, if you take that out and jump the relay with the wires, that'll make the compressor come on and you can watch the pressure on your valve and see what she's doing. This one's a bit low. A lot of people won't touch these. You take them to any Range Rover specialist, they just try and sell you a spring kit. They're not interested in trying to fix these. Nobody wants to touch them. And if they do, they want money, proper money. And it's stupid really, it's not hard. It's a compressor and a few airbags, it's not complicated. People just see air suspension and go, oh, don't go near them, oh, don't go near them. And it a long time. I have rebuilt this compressor in the past a few years ago. Always check for water. If you're ever in the bottom, you always keep an eye out for water. They have a habit of letting water in through your bonnet seals. So always keep an eye on this and make sure there's no water in here or rust or any sort of mould, because then that's your first signs if you've got a leak somewhere. Can't remember how that comes off. Prise it open like that. You'll find it just comes straight off like that, which then shows you the compressor. And it's a case of jumping on there now. I'm doing it, but I'm going to take this inside and do it inside. And to do these, it's pretty simple. Get yourself somewhere to sit down, turn it round so it overhangs the edge, get a spanner on one side, use your 10 mils, and they're not tight. One, two, and three. And then you have your clip on there. They're usually glued on, because I've had this off in the past, it's loose. We just get a flathead screwdriver behind there and just prise that off gently. And then this should lift out now, like that. Nice and easy. And you get rid of that, you don't need that. And it's a case of stripping this down. The seals are in here. You strip this down, take the top off, replace the seals, and put it back together, and you're good to go. These are fairly simple to do. There's loads of people on the internet doing these. If you want to watch someone, there's a fella online, Bagpiping Andy, I think his name is, and he sells the kits. It's about 10, 12 quid, something like that. It's nothing complicated. It's fairly easy to do. It might look nasty, but it's really easy to do. So you get yourself a pair of pliers, cutters, and just nip the cable ties off without popping the pipes. Next thing you do is you want one on here and one on here. Just hold your fingers in, pull the tubes out, simple as that. Hold the collar in. It's a bit fiddly, but it's not hard. Hold the collar in and pull the tube out. There's one of your air pipes. Always double check everything, you know, usual stuff. Make sure no holes, splits, because obviously that could be where you're losing pressure in your compressor, but that looks fine. No holes, no splits, no frays. Next thing you want to do, you want to turn it over. And there's a torque set in there, Torx, and that holds your heat temperature sensor in place. So find yourself the right one. This is not tight, it's just there to hold. Just loosen it off. Like that. And your temperature sensor should, if it's all working properly, just fall out like that. Then while you've got it upside down, you want to take this frame off. There's another 10 mil on there. You might need to just get a spanner on that one. Be gentle with all these things. Nothing's extremely tight. Just be gentle, you don't break anything. Otherwise you are into a brand new compressor then. And the are nylon nuts as well. Next thing you want to do is flip it back over, take that 10mm off there, and take another pipe, this pipe off here, which is exactly the same as the other ones. Push the collar in and just pull it out gently, and then that should be free from its frame. But gentle, because there's still wires connected underneath. Tip that over and it's there, look. Without damaging anything, just be gentle. And that is a case of popping that off there, pulling that out, and then she's off. The next job is to take these off here, which is a 10mm. As I say, be gentle with all these things. It's a bit tight then. So, you know, lift the top off like that, and it comes in two parts. You have an O-ring in there. Check for damage, scuffs, scrapes, which is pretty good on there. And there is what you're trying to replace, that piece there. So you get your bag, your bits in. Comes with a few bits, some things you do need, some things you don't need. And that's what we do need. We want this here, new O-ring, and a new seal. They only go on one way, so you can't get it wrong. Check for wear, and you literally pull that off. Like that. And there it is, it comes off. There's the old one. And as you can see on that one, there's some damage on that old one there now. It's been in for a couple of years. So I'll replace that with a new one. And to put the new one back on, it's the same way. There's a slight pin in there. I don't know if you can see that pin in there. And that's where the groove goes round. And it goes that way on, over there. And you literally just, same as you took it out, stretch it slightly. Round. And squeeze it back in, like that. And that's it. A new piston ring. And you just put it back together exactly how you just took it apart. So you build it back up now exactly the same. Being careful to check this O-ring and replace it if it needs replacing. This one's not too bad, but because I'm doing it, I'll replace it anyway. Get yourself a little flathead, something to fit in that groove. There's the old O-ring. You put yourself a new one in. Just like that. and then build it back up exactly how you took it apart. Making sure that goes in there and seals up against the O-ring. Moment of truth. Is the compressor starting to rise now? If you have one of these, keep an eye on the temperature as well, because it will overheat and shut itself out if it's not working properly. That should achieve around 170 psi. If your tank is low and you have just redone the compressor might reach an overheat point before it reaches 170 psi. It'll shut itself off, cool itself down and kick in again till it achieves its desired pressure. There we go, that's just reached a reasonable pressure, so now this should lift up. There she goes, up she goes. There we go, look, we've just reached maximum ride height. So there you go, that's your air suspension back fully operational. Joys of owning a Range Rover. And she'll now fight to bring that pressure back up to its desired PSI. And see how quick that lifted up? You'll know when this starts going bad, because it starts lifting up ever so slowly and it takes forever to reach the top height. That was up within 5 seconds. The compressor might just reach its overheat point in a minute, purely because I've just flicked it up, dropped the pressure, and now it's trying to achieve that 170 PSI again now. I'm going to go in a minute and have a look, make sure it's all working alright, there's no leaks, everything's back where it should be. Ride height mode invalid, that's a bit strange, it should say you're in off-road height. Perfect, and then we'll lower it back down. That's her venting now. We're back down in normal road height. Perfect. One thing she has just developed though, if anyone knows what this is, I've got a funny feeling I do know what it is. When my blower motors have just stopped working. So the light comes on and we have no fans. If anyone's got any suggestions of what that might be, I've got a funny feeling that it's final stage resistor that sits under here just down by the footwell. That usually is the problem with these. You'll find a lot of people talking about them on forums and things like that, but if you've got any suggestions, just drop me a comment. I might be wrong. I've checked all the fuses obviously and it's not a fuse, but we never know. Could be something simple that I'm missing, but at the moment it stopped working. And I did develop a battery drain problem a couple of weeks ago. I come out and she was flat, so I had to jump start it. So 9 times out of 10 it's that final stage resistor in there that fails, and then it also gives you a battery drain problem and stops your blower motors. But there you go, that's air suspension fully working again. Maintenance on a Range Rover, eh? Can be costly, but if you do it yourself it can be fairly cheap. That was 13 quid and half an hour. Now she's fully operational again. Probably lasts another couple of years. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.